three. So the first audience question is, do you favor a $15 an hour minimum wage as well as a 36-hour work week?
I favor both those. I would go further because I think we need a universal basic income.
Like my opponent, I agree with that, and I think we're going to be talking about a universal based income sooner than we like to think about it, because if you go to other countries that are developed, robots are doing a ton of the work, and there are a lot of folks that cannot find work because of automation. Automation is going to kill our economy, so we'll be talking about this sooner than you think.
I agree that we have to go to a $15 an hour minimum wage, but that's not going to solve the problem of where are the jobs. We have to get ready for a future where jobs are going to change. They're going to be very high skilled. There's no reason why Rochester shouldn't have the best trained workforce in the country. We have always been on the forefront of innovation. We have to keep investing in high quality programs that will train workers. And I previously mentioned support for universal basic income. Rochester is the perfect place to test this because we already have the infrastructure with our mapping. And we can test a jobs program as well, although I'm worried such a program would result in a boondoggle. Universal basic income is a lot more simple. But we know that the entitlement system as it is now is designed to keep people trapped and penalized if they succeed, if they get ahead. And that's not right. We also know that giving poor people money actually works. The two most successful programs is SNAP and the Earned Income Tax Credit in fighting poverty. So there's a lot there to suggest that universal basic income would be something that would be successful here in Rochester, but we absolutely have to do all of that in tandem with investing in our workforce.
Thank you. Mr. McFadden, we're going to begin with you. Will you or do you take money from the NRA?
Do I look like the type of person they would endorse or support? So I guess that's a no.
And I would back that up with a hell no.
No, I threw their survey in the garbage. So yeah, no.
Great. We'll begin here with Ms. Barnhart. Where do each of you stand on criminal justice reform, mass incarceration, and police accountability, and a police accountability board in Rochester?
I believe in the Black Lives Matter movement. I was an early supporter of the Police Accountability Board concept as originally proposed by Ted Forsyth and Barbara Lacker-Ware. I think it's something that's very necessary to be transparent and accountable. And I'm really glad that there is a very serious discussion going on in our community about that. I also believe in bail reform. I'm glad that the governor has finally signed on to that. We'll see what happens. And I have long been a proponent of the legalization of marijuana, both medically and recreationally. But I think we have to go further. The war on drugs has been a complete failure. We know this. We cannot arrest our way out of this problem. The opioid crisis needs to be treated as a medical health issue. It is an issue that has affected me and my family. We cannot treat this like a criminal justice issue. We cannot arrest our way out of it. I do believe in supervised injection sites and holding drug companies accountable and making sure that insurance companies provide treatment so families are not draining their savings trying to save their loved ones and keep them out of jail.
I've seen firsthand the impact of disparate outcomes in policing. And I think that we need federal legislation to make sure that all of our police forces are trained in de-escalation. I think that when the rules of engagement on a battlefield are more stringent than the rules of engagement on the streets of our communities, we're going to have a problem. Criminal justice reform is long overdue. I also support legalization of cannabis because of the disparities in enforcement. And as the mother of 3 black sons, this is a visceral issue for me. It doesn't matter what your zip code is. Our kids are subject to disparate treatment by law enforcement, and we need to address that problem immediately.
Mr. McFadden?
I can speak from this personal experience. If you've never been arrested for anything, then you don't know what I'm talking about. But I've had that experience. I've been, watched when I'm gone into stores or tailgated by police officers. So of course I would support the Enough is Enough policy that they came up on the Police Accountability Board, but it doesn't go far enough because we're the Police Accountability Board for the Sheriff's Department, Arundecoit, Greece, Brighton. I get upset because Rochester seems to be the only place that there are police officers who mess with black people. But I would also say this, the Drug Policy Alliance and I have worked together on legalizing marijuana for New York State for the last 7 years. So I've been supportive of that. But mass incarceration is a racist policy that was put in place to lock up black and brown people. And we have to deal with the fact that if we're going to legalize marijuana, then everyone that was arrested for marijuana needs to be free. You cannot talk about legalization without fixing the fact that you arrested a whole bunch of people for trying to feed their babies.
All right, Ms. Wilt, we'll begin with you. Have you read the city's climate action plan? And if so, what did you get out of it? And if not, why not?
I have not read the city's climate action plan. I've read the state's climate action plan, and I've read Brighton's climate action plan. I don't think it's aggressive enough. I think, or in the case of the state, we don't have an aggressive enough climate action plan. I don't think Brighton has an aggressive enough climate action plan. I know on the municipal level, we're somewhat strapped because of the tax caps, but definitely we are not going to get to where we need to be through the current action plans that we have in place.
I feel like y'all picking on the city tonight. There are 210,000 residents in the city, but in this district it's 770,000 folks. So when we talk about the city's climate action plan, we've taken steps to basically use more renewable energy, LED lighting. We have a plan to basically make sure that all our street lights have LED lighting. They did the first pilot in my district on South Avenue. I worked on that with a few commissioners because we've had some change. We have renewable energy being used on top of the rooftop of City Hall. So we're trying to do that. But I will say this isn't just a city problem. This district comprises 770,000 people. We keep talking about, hey, what about the city? We are going at this from a deficit model. We cannot do that. We always want to put all of the blame and the ills on the city. Actually, if you look at the drain of resources, the city is the victim of the other areas. We don't talk about that.
The city has done some great things. They're moving towards studying community choice aggregation, which is the group buying of energy, shared solar, and there are a number of projects underway. And I'm particularly impressed with investments in infrastructure for pedestrians and for cyclists. I'm disappointed that the plan doesn't really address transportation enough, in my opinion. We really need local leaders to step up and start talking about where jobs go. And start partnering with the county, with area towns, and particularly with Comida, which might be difficult. But we need to start having really difficult conversations about where we're spending money for tax breaks and grants for businesses, and asking companies, if you want our help, where are you locating? Because if you're going to locate on the far fringes of Henrietta where buses don't go, you're automatically saying that our residents can't get there unless they have a car. And that's a problem. And I really want our local leaders, and I will certainly use my bully pulpit to do this, to talk about that issue, and because that's absolutely an environmental issue and it's a social justice issue.
All right, Mr. McFadden, this is going to begin with you. It's a two-part question. What would you do regarding the current administration's immigration policies? What have you already done to protest the current administration's immigration policies?
The current administration, through the National Black Caucus of local elected officials, we've written a number of resolutions on having smart immigration reform and a path to citizenship for folks. Myself, I firmly believe we have to stop arresting people, going on buses, going into schools, doing all the things that we're doing as if we own this land. We stole this land from indigenous people, and now we want to lock people up for trying to come here to a place that we call the melting pot. For me, this is really about how is it that we talk about keeping people safe. And I'm not talking about the people who we call citizens, I'm talking about the people who come here trying to escape a very dangerous or hard time in their country. We have not protected those folks, and we need to do that. We have to be bold enough to say to this current administration, stop using terrorism as an excuse, because the folks that are trying to come here are not terrorists. These are people who are coming here for opportunity that we promised. And all of a sudden, because their skin color is different or they speak a different language, it doesn't apply. We have to be serious about what we're talking about here.